Today we're going to cover 1 Samuel chapters 1 through 26. Hearing God, rejecting God, and waiting on God. Welcome back to the Blue Collar Bible Guy podcast. As always, my name's Mike, and I'm the Blue Collar Bible Guy. Today we're covering days 74 through 81 as we walk through the entire Bible in 2026. 1 Samuel chapters 1 through 26. It's going to be a long one. We're going to cover a lot of ground, but we're going to get caught up. And then starting tomorrow, we will be back on pace to finishing the Bible in a year, one day at a time. So today we're going to do it a little bit different. We're not going to rush through every chapter. We are going to slow down and look closely at what God is actually showing us. Because if we move too fast, we'll miss what matters. Before we begin, if this podcast has helped you stay in the Word, take a minute and share it with somebody. And as always, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to email me at bluecollarbibleguy@gmail.com. All right, let's get into it. Section 1 is Hearing God, 1 Samuel 1 through 3. This book opens with Hannah, a woman in deep distress. She prays, and God gives her a son named Samuel. But the key moment comes in chapter 3, when God speaks to Samuel, and at first he doesn't recognize it. Then finally, in 1 Samuel 3:10, we read, "And the Lord came and stood and called as at other times, Samuel, Samuel. Then Samuel answered, Speak, for thy servant heareth." That's not just a nice moment. That's the foundation of a faithful life. He says, "Speak, for thy servant heareth." Not, "Speak if I agree," or "Speak if it's easy," or "Speak if it fits my plans." Just speak, and I'll listen. That's where everything begins. Most people want direction from God, but they don't come with a posture of submission, and Samuel did. Section 2, Rejecting God, 1 Samuel 8, 13 and 15. Now we move to Saul, and this is where things get serious. Israel asks for a king. 1 Samuel chapter 8, verse 7, we read, "They have not rejected thee, but they have rejected me, that I should not reign over them." Don't miss that. They didn't just want leadership. They wanted control. They wanted to be like everyone else. So God gave them Saul as they rejected God's leadership. And Saul starts out pretty well. But the issues show up pretty quickly. In 1 Samuel 13 and 13, we read, "Thou hast done foolishly. Thou hast not kept the commandment of the Lord thy God." Here we see that Saul disobeys. But it gets worse in chapter 15. God gives him a clear command, and Saul partially obeys. Then he tries to justify it. And Samuel responds with one of the most important statements in Scripture. In 1 Samuel 15 and 22 we read, "Behold, to obey is better than sacrifice, and to hearken than the fat of rams." This is the difference between real faith and false religion. Saul thought, "I can disobey and make up for it spiritually." God says no. Obedience is the standard. Not intentions, not appearances, and not excuses. Obedience. Section 3, we're going to look at how God looks at the heart in 1 Samuel 16 and 17. Now God rejects Saul and chooses David. And here's the key verse in 1 Samuel 16, verse 7. "For the Lord seeth not as man seeth, for man looketh on the outward appearance, but the Lord looketh on the heart." Saul looked like a king. David didn't. But God saw something deeper. This isn't about personality. It's about heart posture toward God. Then we see that heart in action in chapter 17. David faces Goliath. A story that I know you've all heard. In 1 Samuel 17:45 we read, "Thou comest to me with a sword, but I come to thee in the name of the Lord of hosts." David's confidence is not in himself, it's in God, and that's what separates him. He wasn't trusting in his ability to fight. He knew he was smaller and not a seasoned warrior. He trusted in God's ability to protect him and give him victory because he was fighting for the Lord. He wasn't just fighting for Israel or Saul or his family. He was fighting against a man who was defying the army of the living God. He saw it as a personal attack on his God, and he was going to defend the honor and name of his God at any cost, and he trusted God to give him the victory. Section 4, 1 Samuel 18 through 26, we see waiting on God. Now this is where most people struggle. David is anointed king, but then spends years running for his life. Saul's trying to kill him, and David has multiple opportunities to take that throne himself, but he refuses. In 1 Samuel 24:6, we read, "The Lord forbid that I should do this thing unto my master, the Lord's anointed." David understood something. If God made the promise, God will fulfill it. He didn't need to force it, and that's real faith. Not just believing God can do something, but trusting Him enough to take no shortcuts. So what's this all mean for us? This entire section shows 3 responses to God. Samuel listens, Saul disobeys, and David trusts and waits. And every one of us falls into one of those at different times. So, a big truth for us today is that a lot of people want God's promises, but they don't want God's process. Saul wanted results without obedience. David accepted the process even when it was long and painful. And that's the difference between success and failure in service to God. We need to accept the process that God has laid out, even when it's hard, even when it's a struggle, but we trust in Him to get us through the process. We trust in His promises that they're going to be true, because they always are. Saul, again, wanted the results without obedience. We can't take shortcuts to fulfilling God's will in our life. We've got to do it His way, trusting in Him to fulfill what He has for us. So our challenge for today, ask yourself 3 questions. Number 1, am I actually listening to God or just asking Him to bless my plans? I want you to think about that. I'll read it again. Am I actually listening to God or just asking Him to bless my plans? Are we trying to make God fit into our will, or are we listening to God to find His will? Number 2, is there any area where I'm partially obeying instead of fully obeying? Think about it. Is there a situation like that in your life? Are you partially obeying God? Or have you given it your all to listen to what He has to say to you and follow? And number 3, am I willing to wait on God's timing without forcing things myself? I've got to be honest, I struggle with that one. I tend to try to force things through. I try to make things happen. I'm a go, go, go type of person when it comes to trying to fulfill a process. I try to make it happen instead of always waiting for what needs to happen in order to get to the situation we're trying to get to. So be honest with yourself in these questions, because that's where the growth really starts. And trying to focus on obedience to God, trusting God, and willing to listen to what He's saying. I want to remind you again to please share the podcast with your friends or coworkers. Tell them what we're going through, reading through the Bible every day, and try to encourage them to do the same. And as always, I want to remind you to please send me an email. Let's talk at bluecollarbibleguy@gmail.com. But for now, stay in the Word, stay faithful, and remember, small obedience done daily builds a strong faith over time. And I will see you next time as we are back on track tomorrow in our attempt to read through the entire Bible a little bit each day for a whole year.